Have you ever wondered what it actually feels like to be a fearful avoidant attachment style and what the fearful avoidance inside world is really all about? Well, in today's video, I'm going to cover 8 key components of what it feels like to actually be a fearful avoidant attachment style. And I'm sharing this with you not just through the tens of thousands of clients I've seen in a variety of different ways over the past 12 years or so, but also because I myself was actually a fearful avoidant and struggled with being a fearful avoidant attachment style for a very long period of time. It's definitely a huge part of the reason I do the work that I do here today. So excited to share this with you. And if you're new here to this channel, my name is Thais. I am the founder of the Personal Development School, and I put daily content out here for you on YouTube all about attachment styles, the subconscious mind, and what it really takes to heal. And as somebody who was fearful avoidant and then became securely attached, this is work that I really care about, and I'm so grateful to be able to share with you. So, one of the first things that you'll notice in terms of what it feels like to be a fearful avoidant is that you tend to become extremely hypervigilant in the presence of others. I can remember going into a room full of people and essentially being able to pick out in a very short period of time, almost instantly, especially with people I knew. If it was like a big group of people that I worked with, for example, I would know exactly right away when somebody was not having a good day or when somebody was off. And it would just be through these tiny little things. It's not like I was trying to figure this out. It was through these little tiny micro expressions or the way somebody's body language was or their tone of voice that for me created almost this instantaneous impression that I was taking in terms of what was going on for somebody. Now, one of the upsides of being very hypervigilant is that you're quick to notice these shifts and patterns, and it can make you really attuned to people. It can help you really connect to people and understand them. But of course, one of the downsides is when you have a lot of core wounds as a fearful avoidant, a lot of fears from unresolved traumas or past relationships. In your very close relationships, your mind will often jump to the worst case scenario. So let's say, for example, at the time, that I was fearful avoidant, that somebody close to me starting acting differently with me in a relationship. Maybe their pattern changed with how much they were texting or calling or how openly they were communicating. Right away, I would often be quick to assign meaning that said, they're betraying me in some way. Something fishy is going on, something bad's about to happen. And a lot of times it would actually be for other reasons that I never really got an opportunity to communicate through if I would jump to those conclusions. So the hypervigilance is the first key piece of what it means to be fearful avoidant. A second huge component of being fearful avoidant is that you tend to feel deeply, both of your own emotions and what seems like the emotions of others. What you're feeling deeply really is sympathy, right? You're feeling this sense of sympathy in terms of like, oh my goodness, I can relate. They're going through this really hard thing. And you really feel all of your feelings about what that means. And that can be a beautiful thing, right? To feel deeply about what other people's experiences are. It can be something that allows you to show up in a really beautiful way for people, to express care in a really profound way for a lot of people as well. But the flip side of that is that sometimes you are sympathizing more than you're empathizing, meaning sometimes we project how we would feel and we don't realize that somebody else might need or feel something different from what we would experience in that situation. I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, that I'm in a situation where I see that somebody's having a challenge in their relationship, and maybe the person that they really care about has pulled away. I may be like, oh my goodness, this person, feels really sad about this. They must feel really hurt by their partner doing this. And I may kind of tap into my own experiences of having felt that way in the past and sort of project it onto them. But, I might be like, oh, they need a lot of support and they need a lot of connection because they're feeling abandoned from somebody else that they love. So I'll show up and give that to them. But let's say that the person who's experiencing that is very avoidant. Sometimes somebody who's dismissive avoidant may actually not want you to really talk about that with them too much. They may actually want to like kind of keep space or distance from talking about it. They may even want to repress it and not talk about it with you. So sometimes I find myself accidentally prying in situations because I was so busy sympathizing with them, meaning giving them love on the terms of what I would need rather than empathizing with them, meaning seeing what they, from what I know and understand about them, might need that could be different from what I would need in the situation. And so sometimes I try to keep talking about something when maybe somebody actually needed to park it. And in my mind, I'd be like, they need to talk about it because I would need to talk about it if I were them, but that may not actually be their experience. It was a very powerful learning for me as I sort of continued through that work. Now, another downside of it is that if you're constantly enmeshed with people and feeling all their feelings or, picking up all their feelings, then you can often become emotionally burnt out, or you may feel overwhelmed by too much closeness in relationships if that's sort of the role that you always get to play. Another really interesting part of being fearful avoidant is that you may feel like you really only stay connected to yourself when you're in the company of others. And this goes back to this enmeshment and these codependent kind of dynamics that come with it, which is you may feel like you're very clear on what you feel and what you need and how you're doing when you have time fully alone. But you may find that the moment you get into a group of people that you totally lose track of your sense of self. You may even find that you say things like, oh, that person affected me when they said that to me earlier at this networking event that I was at. That was rude. I should have said something in the moment, but you didn't even realize until after the fact. Or instead, you may find that you realize I should have set a boundary or said no, but you compulsively said yes. All of those things are symptoms of you actually being out of touch with yourself in real time while in the company of others. Number four, you may put this internal pressure on yourself to constantly show up, particularly in your relationships. As an example of this, you may feel like, oh my goodness, I can never make a mistake. And you may actually find that if you do make a mistake, like accidentally hurt somebody or say the wrong thing, that you put this enormous pressure on yourself to like fix it, to overcome it. You may even find that you put pressure on yourself in your relationships when you spend time with people to like always have the best time ever. And unfortunately, what that does is it puts all this pressure on your time with people, which doesn't allow you to fully be yourself. Like if you're just tired one day and you go to hang out with a friend or a family member, maybe you just need to like have a quiet day that time. Or if it's a romantic partner, maybe it doesn't always have to be this like top tier date. Maybe you can just hang out, watch a movie, not talk so much and take it easy. But fearful avoidants don't almost allow for their own humanness in relationships to others because there's this internal perfectionism and pressure that they often put on themselves, and you may feel terribly guilty the moment you make one wrong move, which of course, we're going to make mistakes in relationships because we're humans. Number five, you may find that you long for closeness and originally feel quite comfortable around closeness. But if you don't take up space and start communicating your needs about what you also need in closeness, then you will often end up feeling like you are in one sided relationships as a fearful avoidant, overgiving, under receiving. And that can be very painful and can lead to a lot of resentment and frustration. And this is something that often kind of runs a fearful avoidance relationship, which brings me to the next point here, number six, which is that you may struggle with a lot of resentment in relationships and even go through this cycle where you like overgive is sort of first step on the train, under receive being the second stop on the train. Then you feel resentment, which is just inevitable when you're caught in that cycle, followed by anger, and then you may express your anger in unhealthy ways and then go back to feeling guilty about doing that and then overgiving to compensate for your own guilt. And it can be this kind of vicious cycle that really takes place in a lot of your relationships and won't actually be solved for until you learn to communicate your needs and set your boundaries. Number six is you may find that there are a lot of core wounds that you carry as a fearful avoidant. From an integrated attachment theory point of view, we talk about these different core wounds being a fear of betrayal, a fear of abandonment, a fear of being unworthy or unsafe. And you may not feel unsafe, but you may find yourself over defending yourself, like which would say that you're kind of feeling unsafe, at least emotionally from the jump there. Core wounds are around feeling trapped or helpless or powerless and very frustrated if you ever feel that way, sometimes feeling bad or unworthy, like you constantly have to make up for your own unworthiness. And sometimes you may feel really hurt if somebody makes you feel unimportant or like you're unseen or unheard. And a lot of those core wounds are really important components of healing and reconditioning fearful avoidant attachment style. Those are really big things that I personally worked on in my own journey. And like, whoa, it feels like a huge relief to be on that side rather than weighed down by a lot of those core wounds from past experiences. I will say, by the way, before I share the last two here, that if you want to do a deep dive into healing fearful avoidant attachment style, actually of course you can check out fully for free just for a limited time for exactly that, and all about how to recondition fearful avoidant attachment style by actually leveraging principles around neuroplasticity, subconscious reconditioning, and healing, because we're not born with an attachment style. It gets conditioned into us, and we can leverage key principles from neuroscience to actually recondition our attachment style itself. And the last two are, you may feel in a relationship as a fearful avoidant, like you have big needs, but sometimes don't know how to convey them. So you probably have big needs for depth of connection, for presence, to feel like you're a priority, to see vulnerability in your relationships, to have trust through consistency, congruency, consideration. And you probably have big needs for novelty and exploration. And those needs won't necessarily change dramatically as you become secure, but you will feel that those needs are more fulfilled when you understand those things about yourself and learn to convey them in the people that you are in relationships with. So you can actually get your needs met and feel more fulfilled. And last but not least, you may find yourself as a fearful avoidant attachment style, flip flopping back and forth in your relationship dynamics between should I stay or should I go? And that can be exhausting. And usually that will happen if you aren't communicating your needs, because you'll feel like you're giving to somebody and not receiving back. Or if you have a lot of core wounds, these big relationship fears that are still locked into your subconscious mind that will cause you to want love, want closeness, but still be scared of it at the same time, resulting in this push pull pattern internally. So these are some main parts of what it feels like to be a fearful avoidant. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to this channel, or let me know any other questions you have in the comments below. And if you want to do a deeper dive into actually healing your fearful avoidant attachment style, you can check out that course fully free for a limited time in the link down below. Thank you so much for watching.